In the north of Rio, this colonial house is a place of worship for Umbanda, an Afro-Brazilian religion. On Saturday morning, Fernanda Franco, the temple's religious leader, gathered her followers to assess the damage.
We're going to put everything we want to keep in front of a house, so we'll be organized when Valori arrives.
A few days earlier, this place of worship was invaded and ransacked.
This is our sacred space, which has been completely destroyed. These are objects sacred to the Exu deity, who has been demonized even though he has nothing to do with the devil. That's why this place was destroyed the most in the temple. There's nothing left here.
For her, this is not a simple act of vandalism because it's motivated by religious intolerance. The culprits left behind several objects as though it were their signature.
This is one of the two Bibles that was left here. It means that we're not welcome here, that they want to silence us, extinguish our history, everything we believe in. It's a message.
To protect her followers, she's decided to leave the premises. According to the Ministry of Human Rights, Brazil recorded an increase of almost 70% in cases of religious intolerance in 2024 compared to the year before. The main victims were religions of African origin, such as Umbanda and Candomblé. According to studies, the main culprits are evangelical Christians.
At least 60% of my congregation need to be discreet about their religious choice, for fear of reprisals at work, because their boss is evangelical, or even within their own home. Some of my followers have evangelical parents who are unaware that their children practice Umbanda.
Intolerance is fueled by more aggressive branches of evangelical Christianity known as Pentecostal and neo-Pentecostal churches. Their numbers have exploded in Brazil in recent years. There were 8 times more of them in 2021 than at the end of the 1990s. For Márcio de Jogum, a priest from the Afro-Brazilian religion Candomblé, the phenomenon is taking on the aspect of a holy war.
Since the 70s and 80s, neo-Pentecostal groups have become the protagonists of attacks and violence. It's a form of modern crusade. There is a desire to occupy a territory, as happened in the Middle Ages. There is a struggle for power, as in the Middle Ages. And there is an economic dispute.
Over the last 10 years or so, the priest has received many calls from his faithful who are being persecuted.
Hello, how are you doing?
Between 2008 and 2013, this man on the phone was threatened by the militia, the Rio Mafia. Even today, he prefers to remain anonymous for fear of reprisals.
Some of my faithful were threatened with large caliber weapons, which looked like AK-47 rifles, outside our place of worship. The militiamen came to threaten us during a service. They were armed and told us that we had a week to leave the premises.
In your opinion, did the fundamentalist evangelicals in the region rely on the power of criminals to impose their religious domination?
Yes, that's exactly what they were doing through the church.
Which church?
It was a cell of the Universal Church.
What this man is describing is the new alliance between organized crime and certain evangelical Christians that's been sowing terror in Rio for the last 15 years. In these videos from 2017, religious leaders are forced to destroy their temples by evangelical traffickers.
Se eu pegar de novo, ou tentar construir esse caralho de novo, eu vou matar.
Nicknamed Narco-Pentecostalism, this alliance between organized crime and evangelical Christianity has intensified in the favela complex of Israel named after the Holy Land. One of Rio's most dangerous territories, it's dominated by the so-called Army of the Living God. Criminals are under the influence of Álvaro Malaquias Santa Rosa, a drug baron who's converted to religion and says he takes his orders from God in his war against enemy factions and the police. He's expelled all practitioners of Afro-Brazilian religions and is the subject of 10 arrest warrants, including for homicide and torture. Victims seldom seek help from this specialized police station set up in Rio in 2018 to receive and investigate complaints.
I wouldn't say that it's more difficult for these victims to lodge a complaint, but there are far fewer complaints, perhaps because the victims are afraid. This doesn't just concern people from this type of locality, but the whole state of Rio, the whole country. People also don't file complaints because they don't understand what's going on. They think it's not a crime, or that there won't be any punishment anyway.
In March, during a police operation, the emblem of the Israel complex, a giant Star of David at the top of the favela, was removed. It's a symbolic action against evangelical drug trafficking, but far from sufficient to combat the religious intolerance that continues to spread throughout society.